Hello, I'm Steve Haines. I'm so pleased that I can join you today for the launch of your CAP Debt Centre. You're going to be joining God's mission to some of the poorest people in Southampton, those who are struggling with the weight of unmanageable debt. They're going to see God's love at work through God's people, and you'll also have opportunities to share the life-changing message of Jesus. It's exciting. I live in Yorkshire with Marissa, and we're part of a New Frontiers church in Leeds. I wish I could be with you in person because we come from Southampton. It was our home for many years until we took the long trek north in 2015. I was one of the pastors at King's Community Church over in Hedge End, and I had great links with Life Church and a number of very good friendships. At KCC, we opened a debt centre with CAP, and I loved being one of the volunteer befrienders. Over 200 homes have been visited. Over 100 people are now debt-free, and more than 40 have responded to the gospel. It's an amazing work covering the east of the city and beyond. And now I have the privilege of working for Christians Against Poverty, setting up partnerships with churches just like yours in the north of England. When I spoke to Charlotte, I heard about the vision that God has given you as a church to be a lifeboat launched into troubled seas to rescue those who are drowning in sin, sickness, and debt. It's an image that perfectly describes the experience of those who've been caught in a powerful tide, unable to swim against the current and pulled under by the weight of debt, and whose cries for help are lost in the crashing waves. Please keep this image in mind as we explore what life is like for so many families and how you will be engaged in a life-saving ministry. We're going to look at who is going to be helped, how they're going to be helped, and how you can be involved. Let's look first at unmanageable debt. What does this mean? Well, it means not having enough money for essentials and for paying the bills as they come in. Unmanageable debt means making impossible choices. It's the choice between heating and eating. It's the choice between paying your rent or clothes to send your kids back to school. In their 2019 report, the Money Advice Service estimated that 2,200 families in Southampton were in this situation, but had no opportunity for the face-to-face help that they needed. Now, that's even with the two other CAP debt centres that are run by KCC and Above Bar Church. And in our current crisis, these numbers are rising. Unmanageable debt feels like you're drowning. Being tipped overboard or swept away by a powerful current can happen to anyone without warning. A change of circumstances that no one expects, ill health, job loss, or relationship breakdown. It can take a huge effort then just to keep your head above water, staying afloat by going without, or using credit to pay urgent bills. And there's overwhelming fear. People tell us that they were afraid to open the post or answer the phone, to open up when there was a knock at the door, afraid even to leave their own home. And like drowning, you're alone. No one hears your cries for help. Debt leaves people isolated and vulnerable. Now, Matthew's Gospel tells of an everyday boat trip. Suddenly, a furious storm came up on the lake, so that the waves swept over the boat. The disciples went and woke Jesus, saying, "Lord, save us, we're going to drown." Then he got up and rebuked the winds and the waves, and it was completely calm. As you open your debt centre, God is going to use you to calm the storms and to save lives. Those in fear of being swept under the waves are going to discover that someone cares and can do something about it. So we're going to take a quick look at another Bible passage to see what this means for us. In Luke 14, Jesus is in the house of a prominent Pharisee to share the Sabbath meal. It's not long before he's making everyone feel uncomfortable, challenging a concept of Sabbath that ignores people in desperate need of healing, and then commenting rudely about the obvious social climbing that's going on at this party. And just when you think it couldn't get any worse, Jesus calls his host over and in a voice loud enough to be heard by the whole table says, "Next time, don't bother inviting this lot." So let's read from verse 12. That's Luke 14 and verse 12. Then Jesus said to his host, "When you give a luncheon or a dinner, do not invite your friends, your brothers or sisters, your relatives or your rich neighbors. If you do, they may invite you back, and so you will be repaid. But when you give a banquet, invite the poor, the crippled, the lame, the blind, and you will be blessed. Although they cannot repay you, you will be repaid at the resurrection of the righteous." In other words, dinner was lovely, but you've got the wrong people here. Ooh, that's awkward. And then he drives the message home with a parable about a great banquet that no one can be bothered to show up to. They all had excuses. So this host then has a light bulb moment. He issues an invitation to the destitute and the disadvantaged, the overlooked, the under-resourced, and in they come. And so at the end of the day, the party was saved by the poor. This is such a beautiful picture of Christ's calling for his church. It's a pivot point that we're seeing again and again when a local church adjusts its priorities, its budget and its mission to serve those on the margins. And that's what you're doing. Jesus wants a church where the way we value people is turned on its head. And this means being generous to those who cannot repay you, not just at arm's length, but by inviting them to come out of the cold and sit at your table. Now, here's the typical journey of someone who will come to you for help. First, they will hear about CAP from local publicity. Then they will call a free phone number, which will be answered by our friendly professional staff who will listen, reassure them, and book an appointment with Charlotte. Charlotte and a volunteer befriender from Life Church will then visit the person, listen to their story over a cup of tea, explain the help that can be given, and offer to pray with them. Now, right now, of course, Charlotte has to do this over the phone, but as soon as it is safe and legal, all these appointments will be offered face-to-face. Over a couple of visits, the client's paperwork is gathered up and sent to our head office in Bradford, where we have 150 staff working in our debt operations, all of which is regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority. This team puts together a budget, negotiates with creditors, and may even get some interest and charges stopped, and draws up a plan for the client. Charlotte will then go back to present the plan. It explains their options and a recommended route out of debt. Sometimes the client will be able to repay the debt over time. They'll make a monthly payment to CAP, and straight away, we send the agreed amount to each creditor. Other times, the only feasible route will be something like a debt relief order. And our head office team will walk the journey with each client through ups and downs until they're debt-free, which may take several years. This service is entirely free and we don't take a penny of the client's money. At the same time, Charlotte and her team of befrienders are supporting the individuals and families in all sorts of ways. Practical help, friendship, and signposting to other support. So last year, almost 2,500 people celebrated going debt-free through working with CAP. And our research with former clients shows that 93% of those remain free from problem debt, even up to 5 years later. Christians Against Poverty has won national awards for our debt advice, and we're often recommended by the likes of money-saving expert Martin Lewis. But that's not the whole story. We have an unchanging commitment to only provide this service through the local church. Why? Well, because helping people get out of debt and back on their feet is only part of the story. It deals with urgent and very real needs. But our calling and passion is for people to hear the invitation that Jesus makes. To find a debt to God has been paid in full, to discover the gift of true freedom, and to experience a welcome into a new family. In 2019, over 700 people made this response to Jesus for the first time, and that is something to celebrate. God has entrusted you, Life Church, with this ministry. It's the local church where disciples are made and lonely people find a home. And your CAP Debt Centre is a way for you to invite those in poverty to the banquet. Let's just watch one story of a lady called Tina who's been on this journey.
My neighbours didn't know what situation I was in. To walk past the house, no, you wouldn't know. The only thing you think is, oh, that person keeps their curtains closed. You don't know what goes on behind closed doors. The one thing I didn't want was to be judged. You put a front on to people. I won't have a cup of tea because I've only got a quarter of a pint of milk that's got to last me a week. You make excuses. Oh, the boiler's not working today, so I can't put the heating on, sorry. Oh, the bulbs are blown, sorry. I'd go around and take the bulbs out. My bedtime became sort of 4 or 5 o'clock in the evening because I couldn't read by the lights I had or do my cross stitch or anything like that. Collect the post once in a blue moon, big pile of letters, and we want this, we want this, we want this. You can't have it, there's just nothing left. You don't see an end. And as much as people tell you there's an end, there isn't. You're living, not day to day, I was living minute to minute. And the only answer I could see was, if I'm not on this earth, you can't get anything from me.
Poverty is in every community, often hidden behind closed doors. I know what it's like to not have enough to feed your children. I know what it's like to have to leave home. And that's why I started CAP 23 years ago. We offer award-winning debt counselling. Every one of our life-transforming services is run in partnership with a local church just like yours. Whenever CAP partner with local churches, lives are transformed and poverty is relieved. Every year together, tens of thousands of lives are touched by the work of CAP and the local church. But most importantly, around 1,000 people choose to respond to Jesus. On her own, Tina had absolutely no chance of resolving her debt situation. But once the local church and CAP were on the scene, things began to change dramatically.
It was a relief when Ruth came round because for once it was someone that wanted to listen to me, that wasn't getting paid to listen to me. And I sobbed. I broke my heart. She then said, right, we're going to help you here. They will sort you a budget out that I can go shopping where I could open the post and just put it in an envelope and send it to Ruth, or keep it for her next visit. Such a relief to be able to get up in the morning and open your blinds and your curtains and you see sunlight instead of a dark room. You know, and I remember going to church after I went debt-free. You right? Yep. I went debt-free the other day. Yeah, and you know, and everyone was genuinely pleased that I'd done it as well. And through the coach journey, I started going to my local Baptist church, and it started restoring my faith. I got baptised, and it was like a piece of my wall that I put up came down, but also another weight got lifted with the support of my father and the support of the churches and the people around me. I can now start rebuilding my life.
Well, what a great story. But you might be thinking, that's me. I'm not waving, I'm drowning, and it's scary. But there is help. CAP's service now covers every postcode in Southampton. So write down this number and make the call on Monday morning. 0800 328 0006. And here's how all of you can be involved. On the 20th of August this year, just off of Dorset Beach, a man got into trouble in strong currents. The news reports of his rescue show more than 20 people who saved his life by linking arms and forming a human chain to bring him safely back to shore. Now, Charlotte is not going to do this on her own like a superhero. It's going to take the whole church, a human chain, to rescue those who call for help. Starting with prayer. It would be great to have people from each of your sites, Central, Lordshill, West End, whom Charlotte can call on to pray. So if you're willing to put in some prayer, let her know. She will also need befrienders, people ready to go with her or to follow up after phone appointments and to really support those who are being helped. Get in touch with Charlotte to find out more. And beyond this, all of you can be ready to welcome people whose first contact with church is through this ministry. To invite people to socials and to Alpha, to make space around the table in your life group, to be the kind of church where those who've experienced hardship can feel they belong. And finally, you can become part of a bigger movement. You can join thousands of life changers, ordinary people who invest their prayers and money to see lives transformed and the gospel proclaimed. Tina's story shows what is possible, but CAP needs your help to give more people the opportunity to pick up the pieces and get back on track. So that's why I'm asking you to consider becoming a life changer with a monthly gift of £5, £50, or any other amount. Whatever you give, you can be part of this. But please consider this over and above your normal church giving. And if you're not already giving here to Life Church, then make that your first priority. If you do sign up to support us in prayer or to give as a life changer, we'll let you know from time to time about the amazing work God is doing. And we'll send you a free copy of Nevertheless. It's CAP's incredible story of faith and provision, written by our founder, John Kirkby. So go to capuk.org/respond121. Join us and bring hope to more people like Tina. Thank you so much for listening. We're going to be praying for Charlotte this morning, and you'll have a chance to ask her questions. Goodbye.